Hey everyone, my name is Brian, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to add basic camera functionality to an Android application. Like in the previous tutorials on this channel, we will be adding to the Contact Manager project. To start, we're going to just add some basic graphical components for the camera to the current layout we have. So I have that open right here, and the main.xml is what you want to open under the layout folder. So as you can see, we have the contact information and the canvas from the previous tutorials, and to the right of that we're just going to add the camera component. So just for this, I just set up a text view to label where the camera is, a frame layout which will contain the two views of the camera, which I'll explain that concept later, and a take a picture button. Now if you want to see the code for that, you're just going to add the text view code here, the frame layout, and the button. What you're going to want to pay attention to, what we're going to need later is that we're going to need to set the ID of this frame layout to frame and the button to capture. As well, we're going to need to set up an on-click method for button. So right here, we're just going to have to set Android :on-click equals capture handler. When it comes to, in terms of the alignment or the size of any of these components, it's completely up to you. I just set this up so it would kind of fit in the screen and work for my purposes. Okay, so before we move on to coding anything, we're going to have to actually add a permission. And in order to do this, we have to go to the Android manifest.xml. So just under the uses SDK line right here, we're going to add a line that says uses permission Android name equals android.permission.camera. Okay, cool. So as I was talking about earlier, with the frame layout that we have, we're going to have multiple views on the camera. And the idea behind this is you want a view for when someone is taking a picture, so a view that we can place the preview mode on. So when you're looking through a camera lens and you're actually taking the picture, that's what's considered the preview mode or the capture mode. And this will be supported by the camera surface view. And then we also need a view for showing the resulting image that was taken from the camera. So the image view that we're going to use is actually going to be a built-in library class, but the camera surface view we're going to want to set up ourselves. So that's the first class that we're going to actually add. And so just add a class in your project, camera surface view. And the way cameras work in Android is they need to display their preview on a surface. So we need to make this class essentially be a surface. And to do that, we need to extend surface view. And we're just going to need to implement the library for that and also a constructor for that. And we're going to use the one that has context, just the context. Okay, and then that's good. And now also, in order to monitor what's happening to the surface and react, we need to have a surface holder. And we're going to set that up in this class, but we need to be able to have this class be the callback to that holder. So when the holder notices something's being created or changed, we want to be able to handle that. So we're going to make this class also implement a surface holder.callback. So we're going to have to import surface holder and also implement the unimplemented methods. Okay, so first off, we're just going to set up a few variables for later. First of all, we're going to set up, like I said, this surface holder that's going to be monitoring the surface. So we'll just call it mHolder. And public camera. We're going to need to set up the camera object so we can call, take picture on it and set the parameters for it later on. And now we're going to have to import camera library here, but be sure to import the android.hardware and not the android.graphics. Okay, so first of all, before we move on to any of the functions that we have to define, we have to set up some stuff in the actual constructor. So we have to set up the holder that we defined up top. So we're going to use actually inherited method from the surface view, which is getHolder, and this gets the appropriate holder for the surface. that we're referring to. And we're also going to have to set the callback to this class. So to do that, we're just going to do add callback, mholder add callback, and this keyword. Okay, cool. So now we're going to move on. I'm just going to explain this in order of how these functions will be called. First off, surface created. So when this object is created, this function will be called. And when the surface is first created, we want to create the camera object. So what we're going to do is we're going to go camera equals camera dot open. Now this function will return the back camera for the phone or the device. Now we're gonna have to set the preview display, and this can throw an exception. So we're just gonna do a try catch here. Okay, and the set preview display, like I talked about earlier, the preview display has to be on the surface. So, and we have to pass the way it works is you have to set the surface holder to the preview display. So I can spell. Okay, there we go. Now, for this, we don't have to worry about the exceptions, handling the exception right now, but you can add any exception with stack trace or anything you want to do later on. Okay, now we're going to move on to what's going to happen is when the surface created function is called, or once the surface created function is called, it's going to call the surface changed. So in the surface changes is where we want to set up the actual camera parameters and ensure that the size of the preview is going to fit within the surface. So we're just going to go camera dot parameters params equal camera dot get parameters. So that'll return the parameters for the camera. Oops, spell that one wrong. Okay, and now we're going to say params dot set preview size. And we're just going to pass the width and the height variables. Okay, and then we're going to have to set these parameters up now that we've modified them. And just pass params. And we're going to want to start the preview. Okay, so now we just have to implement the surface destroyed. So when the surface is destroyed, we want to stop the preview mode. And also we want to set camera equal to null. Okay, cool. So we just have one more function to implement here, and this is going to be a capture function. So this is what's going to be called when someone actually takes a picture. So it's going to take in a picture callback value, or object, rather. I'll explain this later when we create it in the contact manager. Now, actually, for now, we don't even need to do the Boolean. This is later on if you want to check it to make sure the camera does in fact exist. But just for simplicity's sake, we can just do camera dot take picture. And now the first two arguments are going to pass null. The shutter callback is the first argument if you want to have a shuttering sound to the camera when it's taken. And the picture callback is if you want the raw data for the file, but we want just the full JPEG callback for that. So we're going to pass the picture callback JPEG. So as we passed earlier, so this is going to be JPEG handler. Okay, cool. So now that we've created this camera surface view, we can go over and monitor actually change the contact manager activity. So just for the sake of time, I've done a little bit of stuff ahead of time. I'll explain to you what these variables are, and I haven't implemented anything, just so you know what to implement or what libraries to implement. So over in the contact manager activity, we're going to need the camera surface view object, like we had defined earlier, and the image view, which is going to be the library image view object. So you're going to import that. And okay, this frame layout object is going to refer to the frame layout object we have in our main.xml. So because we want to be able to switch between views, so we have to access that object. As well, we're going to have the button. We're going to refer to that. So we're going to android.widget the import for that. And then we're going to also have a Boolean take picture. Now this Boolean is going to keep track of whether or not we're in capture mode or we're in image result mode. And also we're going to have a variable image that's a bitmap that's going to store the resulting image from the camera. Okay. So there's some setup involved that we got to basically set up all these variables. So just to not clutter the constructor, I've decided it'd be a better idea to have a setup camera function. So we're going to call that setup camera function here, and we're going to define it down here. And I went ahead and just defined this as is. So we're going to instantiate the camera view object by calling the constructor of the camera surface view class right here, and pass the get application context. As well, we're going to set up the image view object that we defined above. So we're going to call the constructor for that and pass application context as well. Now, image.result set background color. I'm currently setting this to gray just so that you know when if the image that comes back from the picture will come back and it'll have a background to put on, so there's not kind of this blank black space behind it, because we're essentially putting views on top of each other. That's the way the frame layout works. So we're just going to set the background color to gray for that. Okay, now for the frame layout, we're just going to call that from the XML. So how we do that, you've seen in previous tutorials, we do find view by ID, and then we cast it into a frame layout. And same with the button, that's what we're going to do. Now, we have to actually add the views to the frame layout. And to do this, we're going to do frame new.add view, and then image result, which is the image view, and camera view, and add camera view, which is the camera surface view. And in the beginning, we're going to want to have the image result up front, because it makes more sense that when someone starts up the application, they don't want to see the camera running right away and the preview running right away. They want to be able to choose to go to capture mode. So initially, it'll be in image review mode. So now that we've defined that, we need to go ahead and define the capture handler, which was going to be for our snap photo button. Okay, so I already set up here an if and else statements. So if we're in capture mode, which will be defined if take picture is true, then what we want to do is just call the capture function from camera view. And we're going to pass a JPEG handler that we will define later below. And this will be the picture callback. Now, if we're not in camera mode and we're in preview mode, we want to, first of all, switch the Boolean over to true so that we can switch over to camera mode when the person presses the button. As well, we now want to move the camera view to the front. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring child to front, and we're going to pass the camera view. So this kind of gives the illusion that we're switching between modes as you would in a camera when you're taking a picture and when you're not taking a picture. Also, we're going to set the image result, so what would be in preview, just to set that to null. So kind of clear what the current image is, because when they capture again, they're going to be capturing a new image. And we're just going to change the text of the button so that it reflects that you're in a capture mode. So it'll change it to capture. Okay, cool. So we have to define this JPEG handler, this picture callback variable. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to have to go down here and we're going to have to import camera hardware again. And now now when we define this here, we're going to have to actually create a on picture taken function. So this is basically how it's going to work is, since we're passing a callback to the capture function, when the camera takes a picture, it's going to return back to this callback and use this function that we've defined here. So it's going to return back the camera object and the data that makes up the image that we took. And it's going to return it in the form of a byte array. So I've just done a little bit of the setup here so far to speed things up. We're going to have image, the image, that variable that we defined up here, we're going to have it set it equal to a decoded version of the data we got back. So I'll just set this up. So we're going to call the bitmap factory, we're going to need to import this. And you're just going to call decode byte array. And we're going to just pass to it the data that's actually the array we want to decode, the offset, so just set that to 0 because we want to start at the beginning, and the length of the data array. Okay, so now that we set up the image, we want to set the image result, so set the image view to have its image that it's displaying as the current image that we just took. So we're going to do that by going set image bitmap to the current image. Okay, and we're also going to need to bring the image result to the front now. So we're going to call again that bring child to front function. And we're going to pass the image result. As well, we're going to set the set text on the button so that it reflects that we're in image view mode and that we want to, if we click it, that will go into the capture mode. So we're going to set the text back to take picture. And set the boolean back to false. Okay, cool. So now that we've set all this up, we have the capture working, and we have this kind of illusion that we're switching between modes of capture and preview. Now, the last step we have to do is be able to save the actual file. So from the previous tutorials, we've set up a save to file, and we even have set up a save image save to file function and a save image function. So all we really have to do is call this save image function. But first we want to make sure that image is not null. Now if the image is not null, then we will call this save image function. And we're going to pass to it the file path. And just for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to call the image.jpg, not very creative. And we're just going to pass the actual image object. So now when you press the save button, it will save the current image that is stored in your image variable, along with all your contact information and the signature. So that pretty much sums it up, and I hope you guys hope it all works out for you and you guys understand how this works. Basically just run your program and you'll be able to see that now you have a working camera in your application.